Hey there, my fellow designers and creatives. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the third video in this mini series on advanced prototyping. If you haven't watched the previous videos, make sure to watch that because this is going to be a continuation of that. So in this video, let me show you what we're going to be creating. So far we've gone ahead and created the country picker, and then we can go ahead and enter a phone number. So let's say I enter a random 11-digit phone number, and I'm just going to press send code, and now we end up on this particular screen. Now what we're going to be doing is, if I go back, we basically go ahead and reset the number because we don't want to have the same number, because the user might have entered the wrong phone number, so they might want to change it. So we come here and reset. So that's one of the things that we're going to do. The other thing that we're going to look at is, if I tap over here in the empty area, you can see that the keyboard gets collapsed, right? And the state changes back to the inactive state. But when I tap on it, the keyboard comes again. Not just that, if I enter a random phone number like this, and in the end, I close it, the keyboard goes away and we maintain that state of having this phone number right there, right? It can be any phone number. And even if I add in a couple more digits, I can click on this and then it goes away. And then I tap on this, I enter a few more digits, tap in the middle, it goes away. I tap on this again, we enter the number 9, or any number, doesn't really matter. And then we tap on send code, and then we transition over here. You can also see that there is a small delay where we get this, because when the OTP comes, it doesn't come immediately. It takes a second or two to actually for the phone to recognize that we got an SMS, and then that gets populated over here. And of course, you can go back and then it resets everything, and then you can start all over again. So with that being said, let's get started. So this is where we left off in the previous video. I'm going to go ahead and just copy all of this and move this all over to the side so we can work on this freshly. This is from the first video, this is from the second video, and then we can come over here and look at this. All right, perfect. So this is fine. What we want to do is now, basically, if I look at the interactions. So if you see over here, we have this interaction where we basically, when we click, we go back to the previous screen. And what we want to do here is we want to set a conditional, right? Now, what does that mean? So let's go ahead and understand that. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and just grab one of the text layers over here, and I'm going to come over here. Okay, so basically, I'm going to go ahead and just remove all of this. Okay, what we're going to do is, when I click on the empty area, okay, when I tap on the empty area, I want you to transition back to this screen, right? But the thing is that if we have already entered a phone number, we want to show that phone number, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is, if I come over here and maybe grab, let's pick this one, right? Let's just grab this one to explain what I'm showing, okay? If I come over here, or maybe, you know what, let's just choose probably this one, okay? And I'm going to delete this, all right? And maybe delete this as well. And I'm going to change the state of this to be actually, let's do completed, right? And let's say I've entered like 4 digits, all right? Basically what I'm saying is that if there is nothing that is inputted, I want you to close the keyboard and transition back to this screen, right? Because this is the placeholder that we have. But if I have entered something, then I want you to transition to this screen, right? Where it is filled, okay? Now what we have here is we have multiple states, right? So we've got an inactive state, which is basically this one. Then we've got an active state, all right, which is basically with the cursor. Then we have the filled state, where we would fill the phone number. And then we have the completed state, where there is no cursor, right? So basically, we want to set a logic saying that if there are no numbers entered, I want you to go ahead and go back to this screen. But if there is a number that is entered, transition to the next screen, which looks like this, okay? So let's go ahead and do that, right? We want to set a very simple logic, okay? And here I'm going to say, change this from PM active to PM completed, okay? Perfect. So when I click on the empty area, maybe we want to do it for this actually, okay? When I click on the empty area, and what we are going to use as a factor for identifying this logic is the number of digits, right? Because if the number of digits is 0, then we transition over here. But if we have more than 1 digit, we transition over here, right? So there are many ways to write this logic, right? So let's say when I tap on the empty area, if the number of digits okay, if the number of digits is equal to 0, okay, if the number of digits is equal to 0, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to transition to the first screen, which is basically inactive screen, okay, to the inactive screen, okay. So we'll come over here and then we're going to just add some colors so that we can look at this a little bit better, right? So when I click on the empty area, if the number of digits is 0, which basically means that there is no number that's inputted, transition back to this screen. But if there is, all right, which means the number is not 0, then, okay, maybe I can hear, okay, or else, okay, what you want to do is transition to the completed screen. Okay, so come over here and choose the completed screen, right? We're going to transition to this screen where we have the phone number that's inputted. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how to do that. It should be pretty simple. So coming back here to the prototype, we have this back, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and keep this back, all right? We're going to create a conditional, okay? So I'm going to set a conditional, okay? And if we were to look at the logic, maybe I'm going to move this over here so we can see this a little bit better. Okay. So if the number of digits is equal to 0, okay, so I'm going to say number of digits. If the number of digits is equal to 0, okay, then I want you to transition to the inactive screen, which is basically going back over here. Okay. So then I'm going to click on this back and I will drag that inside. Okay. This is basically going to take you back to the same screen. But if it is not, right, which is the else statement, transition to the completed screen, which is basically PN completed. So I'm going to click on add. I'm going to say navigate to, okay, and we have a bunch of screens over here. I'm going to go ahead and choose the, where can we find it? PN completed screen, all right. And how do we want to transition? We want to do a smart animate because we want the keyboard also to go away. So we want to go ahead and make sure that we do a smart animate and we do it around 200 milliseconds. And yeah, that should be it, right? So let's see. Does this have a keyboard? This does not seem to have a keyboard. So I'm going to just come over here on this particular screen. I'm going to copy the keyboard and then just paste that over here, right? So when I click on this button, so when I click on this keyboard, you can see that this will sort of transition down and all of these buttons are the same. So let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm going to click on this, press shift enter, so shift spacebar, okay? And so now when I click anywhere in the middle area, nothing happens. So maybe let's try again from the beginning. I'm going to come over here, click on this, okay? So I'm going to click on the phone number, I click on the back area and then it works perfectly, right? Works amazingly well, okay? But what if I have entered a number? Let's say I've entered something like 255. When I tap on back, you can see it changes to 1234, right? The transition is working, but we need to carry forward this value, all right? Now, the reason the value is not being carried forward is because we have not set a variable for this one, right? So if I were to show you over here in the copy, we haven't actually set a variable, okay? So what we have done is maybe I can bring this over here, okay? For the filled text layer, which is basically this particular state. So let's try that again. So I'm going to go ahead and click on phone number and then I enter this. So, right. So basically this state, which is basically the filled state. All right. Let me select this, right? In the filled state. Here the text, we've applied the phone number and we're going to take this same variable, which is the actual phone number that is being entered and apply that over here. So I'm going to come click on this. And I'm going to say phone number. So now whatever is the phone number on this screen is going to get transitioned onto this screen because they're using the exact same variable, right? So now if I go ahead and play this, okay, let me play it again. Click on the phone number. Let's try 4563. And then I click here. You can see now that everything goes away and then 4563 maintains over here. Now, the thing here is that when I click on this, I want to transition back over here to this screen, right? So I can come over here, click on this, all right? And maybe I'm going to select this phone number over here, okay? I'm going to add a transition or go to prototype and I can prototype over here. And we're going to choose navigate back to smart animate to 50 milliseconds, right? Just as usual, right? And we can also check the transition speed. The transition speed is 200. So maybe we do 200 here as well. So even going back, I can set that to 200, which is fine. And even here as well, we want to set this to 200. Okay. So now let's give it a shot and see how this looks. So if I click over here, I'm going to add some number. I'm going to click outside. That goes. I can click on this again, and then it just works perfectly fine. And then I can continue typing. And I can see even the number of digits over here, those get maintained. And I can stop here again. I can click on this, click on 1. All right. And here it's not showing. Here the button is not active because we have to set it to India. But because this is Germany, we need to add another digit. So I'm going to show you again. Just click away, come over here, choose 7. And then we go over here, right? Now, in this case, if I go back and I just close this, you can see here that the button is going to stay visible because we have 11 digits, right? So when I tap on this again, you can see that we come back to the previous state and then this button is active, right? So that's again a really cool thing that we can look at. Amazing. So now let's go ahead and see what happens when I tap on send code. So what are the things that we want to do is if I come back here to the design mode, we want to transition to this particular screen. Now, this is going to be a page transition because we're going to a brand new screen altogether, right? Here it says verify your mobile number. Here we have 6 digits. Here we have an assistive text. We will also have an error message, right? And what actually is happening here is that we transition to this screen and immediately after 1 millisecond, right, we transition to this screen where we smart animate and we bring up the keyboard, right? Because the moment we click on this, we want to have the keyboard open. We cannot have the keyboard open by default. The keyboard has to transition, right? But we do it with a delay of 1 millisecond. And then after 1 second, we actually get the SMS because it takes like 1 to 2 seconds to get the SMS. And then we can sort of start typing, right? So this should be very simple to create. So let's go ahead and, do that. So we'll go ahead and then copy all of these 3 screens, okay? I'm going to come over here and move this down over here. And in fact, we can take all of this and move this down because this is some sort of an intermediary screen, right? These are going to be, our primary screens, right? Amazing. So now over here, when I click on this and when it is successfully active, we want to transition to this screen, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click on this, add a prototype, and then we can transition onto this screen, okay? Now, on click, you want to navigate to this screen. And how do we want to do it? We want to do a page transition, right? So we want to do in a slide in, right? This is your native and iOS transition where you get like this normal transition, which makes a lot of sense, okay? And the direction is also fine. As you can see over here, the direction is fine. So that looks pretty good, all right? So let's quickly go ahead and check it out, okay? So I'm going to press Shift Spacebar and I tap on send code. And then the transition works, right? Maybe we increase the duration of the transition a little bit. So maybe we change it to 300 itself, right? Maybe 300 is a better number. It's a little slower. So we can select this, click on send code. The transition is perfect. Now, but the problem is that if you see over here, we are transitioning even though this button is inactive, which shouldn't happen, right? Which means we need to set a conditional, right? We want to transition to this screen only if this button is active, okay? So this is a very simple conditional statement, right? So come over here and we're going to add a conditional, okay? So when I click on this button, if the state of this button, right? So if I come here and search for button, if the button value is equal to true, okay? If it is true, which means if it is active, then I want you to navigate to the next screen, right? So when I click on the button, if the button has a value which is true, then navigate to the next screen. If not, don't do anything, right? You don't have to do anything. So let's see if that works. So I'm going to come over here, click on this, and let's just, when I click here, you can see that nothing happens. I'm clicking actually, but nothing is happening. But when you go ahead and input a number, and let's say we have more than 12 digits, doesn't matter. The point is this button should be active. If it is active, I can then click on it, and then we transition to the next screen. All right, now, a couple more things over here. Now, the first thing is that when I tap on this back button, I should be able to go back and start all over again. Okay. Because maybe I made a mistake by entering my phone number. And also we want to show that same phone number that we wrote over here. We want to show that phone number over here as well. All right. Not just a phone number, the country code as well. Right. So, which means we have to use variables right now. Okay. Now, the first thing is let's understand how we have to construct this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and break this into 3 separate layers. Okay, 3 separate text layers so that we can tag a variable to each of this, right? Because the phone number that we show over here should be the same phone number that is entered over here. This country code should match this country code. Okay. Now, let's see if we already have those variables, right? Now we already have the country variable, as you can see over here. We have the default code. Okay. And then we have the actual phone number variable as well, right? So if I come over here, maybe I can show you over here, right? If I come here to the phone number input, you can see we have the phone number variable as well, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select this. I'm going to just duplicate this, okay? And I'm going to remove this like so. And then here we're just going to have the country code. And then here we're just going to have the actual phone number, okay? And then I can select all this, press Shift A. We can go ahead and I can call this wrapper. Move this over and we can probably set that gap to 2. I'm not really sure what the gap should be, maybe 4. Yeah, I think 4 is fine, right? So if I were to come here and say plus 4, 9, right? Or let's just keep it like this. Okay. Or maybe we make it 2 itself, right? Yeah, this is fine. So now I can come over here and for this, okay, I can apply the default country code. Okay, not Germany, not India, because this is the one that is getting changed. Okay. And then for this one, I'm going to choose the phone number. Okay. Now, right now, the phone number, the default value is blank, as you can see over here. The default value is blank. But once we go ahead and enter some numbers over here, the system is going to start capturing the phone number and then it's going to present that over here. Okay. So let's see if that works. So come over here, start again, or maybe we're going to start all the way from the beginning. I'm going to change it to India. So let's say if it works for India, if it should work for Germany as well. So I'm going to click on India. So here it changed to +91. I'm going to tap on the phone number. I'm going to enter, let's say 41414141 and 41. Okay. I'm going to click on send code. And now you can see over here that it said we sent a 6-digit number to 91 because it captured the default country code. And that number gets populated over here. Now, the thing here is that let's say I made a mistake, right? I want to send it to another phone number. I want to click on the back button. Now, we haven't added a trigger for the back button. So I'm going to click on this chevron, go to prototype, and I can choose this back button. Okay. Now, let's see if back works. All right. If back works, that's great. If not, then we'll have to change the trigger. So let's say we enter some number. We go ahead and set send code, we click on back, and then it works perfectly, right? But now here, the problem is that we wanted to reset all of this, right? Even the number of digits, we wanted to reset everything. We want to start afresh, okay? So what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to reset the number of digits to be 0, okay? We're just going to take the digits and reset that to be 0. We're also going to change the state to this state, which is the second state. Right? The second state is the active state. This is the third state, which is the filled state. So we're going to transition from the filled state to the active state. Okay. And the active state is basically this, where everything is empty. And they're also going to reset it back to 0. And even this also needs to be resetted. Okay. So we have to do 3 things. The first thing is we're going to reset the button. We're going to reset the number of digits, and we're going to go ahead and reset the state. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Should be very simple. So what that means is over here, when I go back, this is fine. I'm going to add another one. Okay, the first one is I'm going to set variable. I'm going to change the number of digits. So I say number of digits. Okay, change the number of digits. All right, from whatever is the value, whatever it is, doesn't matter. It can be 1 million, it can be 100, it can be 5, it can be 10, right? Change that to 0. Just go ahead and change that to 0. As simple as that. Okay. So now if I come over here and we can test this, click on back. Let's try again. Click on this, go back. Click on back. Oh, doesn't seem to be working for some reason. Let's try again from here. I'm going to add in a random number. Click on send code. Now I can go back. And now as you can see, the number gets resetted back to 0. Okay. We're going to reset this as well. So we're going to select this, click on this. We did back, we did set variable. And here I'm going to go ahead and choose set variable of the input field, right? Not this one, the phone number one. So I'm going to say PN active. Okay. Whatever it is, I don't care. Whatever it is, I want you to go back and change it to the active state, right? So go ahead and change it to active. Okay. Now here we have two options. We have active or we have this. Okay. Now let's see what happens if I choose this, right? Because this one has the value of active. Okay. Let's see if that works. Okay. So I'll come over here, click on this and type in some random number. Just click on send code. We go back and as you can see, it doesn't work. It doesn't get reset. Okay. The reason is because what we're basically telling is that this value, whatever is behind this value, if the value of this is X, change it to X, right? We don't want it to do that because right now, this state is in the filled state, right? We had changed the value of active to filled. So now we have to say, whatever is the current state of this, right? Doesn't matter what the current state is. I want you to go ahead and set this to active, like specifically set it to active. And I'm going to say string. Okay. And now what that's going to do is if we close this up, close it up all over again. Let's start from the basics. Click on this. Let's add a random number. Click on send code and we go back. Now you can see it resets. It takes a second to change that, right? But that's only a Figma thing, right? And then it resets that. Now we also want to reset the state of this as well. Okay. So I'm going to click on this, add another one, set variable of the button. Let me just actually hide all of this. Okay. The button, whatever is the state, I don't care whether it is active, whether it is inactive. I don't really care. Just take the state of that button and change that to be false. Just change it to false. As simple as that. If it is active, change it to false. If it is false, set it to false. I don't care, right? So let's go ahead and close this and start all over again. Let's check this out. We enter digits, send code, we go back and everything resets, right? There's a slight delay. That's a Figma thing, but don't have to worry about it. And now let's try a different number. Let's try 456. And as you can see now here, everything gets so messed up because what's actually happening is that this number that we entered before, the actual phone number is not being reset. We changed the state, but not the phone number, right? So let me repeat that. So if I play this again, so let's say we add 111111. Now the system has registered that this is the phone number. Okay. Click on send code. We go back. Everything resets. But that phone number is still valid. We have not reset that phone number. So what that means is you're going to come over here and set another one, set variable of the phone number, set that to be empty, right? Now to set it to empty, all we have to do is add the apostrophe, right? So if I add those double quotes, all right, it basically is saying that set it to an empty layer, right? Set it to a blank empty layer. Okay. So now I can close this. I can close this, try again. Let's select this. Let's add a number. Let's say 555555. Send code that gets registered over here. We go back. All right. Now everything is reset. Now, when I start adding a number, the phone number now currently is blank. So if I start adding 2, it starts afresh because now we reset the phone number to an empty string. Okay. So now if I enter 222, click on send code, that gets registered over here. We go back. I'm going to type in 666666. That gets registered. We can go back, we can come over here and we can even probably add another one. Let's say some random number like this. Click on send code and that gets registered over here, right? Amazing. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to transition to this screen where the keyboard automatically comes up. So this should be very simple and straightforward. All I'm going to do is I'm going to prototype this to this particular screen. And we're going to do this on delay because we want it to happen automatically. We want the keyboard to come automatically. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose after delay. The smallest delay we can have is 1. Okay. And I'm going to change this to smart animate because we want the transition to happen. Set that to 200 milliseconds. And yeah, that should be fine. So let's test this out. So let's go back all the way to the beginning. We click on this, we enter a random phone number, click on send code, and then things move over here. There seems to be some sort of an issue. I think the elements aren't moving properly. Maybe that's because, oh yeah, so, these don't seem to be components. I'm going to copy this, come over here and paste this over here. I'm going to call this verify code, copy this and paste this over here. Verify code. We're going to do the same thing over here and paste as verify code. All right, so let's try it again. So come over here, click on this. We add a random number, click on send code, and it works perfectly. Okay. Now the problem here is that the reason this button is active is because the last state is being transitioned. Because this is the same button, the state is being carry forwarded, right? So let me explain what that means, right? So if I come over here and we enter this, okay, now this is active. Because we're using the same instance over here, that state is being transitioned over here as well. It's being carry forwarded throughout the prototype. So what we must do is when we select this, right? And when we add, when we have a trigger over here, right? We want it to transition to the next screen, but also reset the state. Okay. So what that means is I'm going to add a conditional or basically a set variable, actually not a conditional, where I'm going to change the button state. We're going to set it from whatever the state is. It can be false, it can be true, doesn't matter. Whatever is the state, just reset it back to false. Okay. So if the button is true, I want you to click on it. And if I click on it, I want you to transition to the next screen, which is basically this screen, right? As you can see, the OTP active keyboard, which is this screen, and also reset the button. Okay. So let's try that again. I'm going to close all of this, start over all the way from the beginning. Click on this, set a random number, click on send code. And that does reset, but it takes that actual extra second to reset it. So maybe we can try again. We can come over here. Let's add a random number. See send code, right? It does work, but then there's that very slight delay. If we, let's say we add the delay after, let's say 200 milliseconds, let's see if we can actually see that it's changing on this screen. So we add this, we say send code. Yeah, you can see that it did reset it back slowly. There was just a little bit of a lag and then it transitioned over here. So we're going to go ahead and set this back to 1 millisecond. And I think for the keyboard interactions, maybe we add, I think 200 is fine, right? Doesn't matter. Now, so if I click on this, you can see that this is what we get. Now, of course, the layers are not the same. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that we copy the same layers. So we paste it on all the screens so that the components are correct. We can also copy the nav bar and also add the nav bar as well, and also add the nav bar here as well. Now we want to transition between this screen to this screen. Okay. Now this again happens automatically. So we're going to say after delay, and let's say we choose, 1000 milliseconds. This just suddenly appears, right? And what we can do here is instead of a slide in, we can just do an instant because this suddenly appears, right? So let's try that again and see if that works. So we can click on this. Let's add a phone number. Let's add a random phone number. Click on send code. That's perfect. And then after 1 second, this comes up, right? This is the correct OTP and everything else is perfectly fine, right? Just want to make sure that we have this and we paste this over here. Let's check the navigation if the navigation works perfectly. So we enter a random number. We go ahead and say send code. This back button should work. So if we go back, looks like we have a problem. The back button only goes to, if you see over here, it just goes back to the previous screen, which is not the right behavior. So we actually wanted to go back to this screen, which is the pin active screen, right? So what I can do is I can come over here, and instead of saying back, I can go ahead and say navigate to the pin active screen. And you can also see the transition. So yeah, we want to use this transition, which is the correct transition. 300 milliseconds is fine, which is okay. And then I'm going to copy this, okay, and then paste it on the other buttons as well. I'm going to delete this and then just paste it again, and then select this, delete this, and paste all over again. So as you can see, when I tap on the back screen, it goes back to this particular screen, right? So let's quickly check that out. Let's come over here. Let's add in a random number once again. Click on send code. Now we're in the final state. And now over here, I can click on the back arrow, and that does a weird thing. So we obviously have to change the direction. So I'm going to click on this. We should do a slide out. Yeah, slide out is correct. So I'm going to click on this again, change this to be slide out, and yeah, the right side. And then over here, click on this, change this also to be slide out to the right side. All right, so let's do one final check. We go back and the slide out works. We tap a number, type in a number again. Yeah, looks good. We go back. Yeah, everything works fine. Amazing. So now with this being said, we can then go ahead and in the next video, go ahead and do the input for the digits, and we can do the error state, right? Because if you enter a wrong number, you can come over here and it is going to show this error message. But if you enter the right number, it changes the color over here as well. And then it transitions to the home screen, right? So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comment sections down below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing, awesome content. And I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye-bye.